All right. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of Wilson Talk Podcast. In today's episode, we have Miss Aallyah Wright. Miss Aallyah, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm just happy today, Friday, honestly.
All right, Aallyah. So, Miss Aallyah Wright is from Clarksdale, Mississippi. So, Miss Aallyah, can you explain to the audience more about yourself?
Yeah. So thank you, first of all, wanting me to be on your podcast. I appreciate it so much. But yes, as Najwan has stated, my name is Aallyah Wright. I am from Clarksdale, Mississippi, in the middle of the Mississippi Delta. And I am a full-time rural affairs reporter where I cover the entire rural America. And I also lead equity and race coverage for my newsroom. In addition to that, I am a playwright where I help to transform journalism into theatrical productions. I've co-written 2 plays thus far, and hoping to write another one in the future. Aside from that, I do a lot of volunteer work. I am a board member for a couple of different nonprofit organizations. I love to write and read and journal and write poetry and all type of things. And I also like to dress up. And I just love community. Like I love, my folks from Mississippi. And the last thing I'll say is previously before I started this new role as a national reporter, I wrote about education in the Mississippi Delta. And I'll soon be leaving the Delta. I know y'all are probably like, oh, she's so passionate about the place she's from, which I am. But yeah, I'll be leaving soon and I'll be moving to DC. So that's a little bit about me.
Also, I want to share with the audience, me and Aallyah are colleagues. We were on the Delta Statement together at Delta State University. So that was a great experience, and we were able to make some great work as a collective group. We go from like paper to online, which was like totally different from like now. So like we're adapted into this situation. I think honestly, we probably would have been good like in this setting with the COVID and all that stuff, like because we transferred.
Oh, most definitely. It's funny that you mentioned that, we go back to Delta State and working for what was then the print publication, and we were there at the age of transitioning to digital. And in our minds, we were just like, what? Digital only? Like we're used to like print, like that's where you get your news from, the newspaper where you physically hold it. Mm-hmm. But I think what was so beautiful about that transition is then we got a chance to do a little bit of multimedia and kind of change the way that we wanted to tell stories. Probably not to the magnitude of what we could do with that now. But I think for, college students that's trying to navigate their way through those platforms, I think we did a pretty good job.
I think so too. Especially the transition from print, like people don't realize what goes on like in those rooms and the process of the print. Like it takes a minute, so.
Oh yeah, there's a process. Definitely.
But also I wanted to touch base. I know I mentioned this to you before we got on live, but I wanted to touch base on the cuss meter, so you get an opportunity to win like $25 from me, of course. And if you were to use like curse words, they'll deduct $25. So if you use one, that's going to be 20 and you still win it. But if you go into the negatives, you got to donate that money somewhere. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a clean segment. So I ain't got to worry about that. So I'm going to make sure to have your $25 immediately. So,
but look, let me say something. Sometimes a curse word may slip out, one or two. It just depends on how intense the conversation might be. So I won't make it easy for you. I'll try not to make it easy for you.
Hey, that's fair. That's a fair point. I mean, especially with the intensity you said that may come. So you just never know. That's why I put like at least you allow five, 5 curse words. So and then you control it from there. But we're gonna tap in to this other segment of the episode. So in order to dictate what we'll be talking about today, we have this thing called TOTD, topic of the day, and I'm going to share my screen so we can review the topics that we'll have to choose from, but we'll allow the wheel to choose for us. So
Okay.
just bear with me. Let's see. Cool. Okay. Let me get this straight. All right. Okay, here we go. Can you see that?
I can. I can't read the words, but don't have my glasses on, but that is okay.
It's all good. I'll let you know. All right, so here's the first spin. So we're gonna talk about this segment for a good little minute, and then we'll come back to the second topic.
Okay.
All right. Oh, books. So books is the topic that we'll start off with. So
Okay.
I have questions also with me. So I got my little pads. Gotta be prepared for it. All right, so books. As of right now, Miss Aallyah Wright, top 3 books that help you personally, like just your development as a professional, as just a human, like any top 3 books that come to mind to you.
I hate that I'm gonna mess up these titles. Bear with me. But there's this book. It's so funny that you say that. So I was cleaning off my bookshelf recently. It's back there. Well, y'all can't see it.
Right.
Because I'm about to move. And one of the books that I pulled that was something that I had looked at a long time ago, and then I just started back last night. But it's called hold on, because I don't want to mess it up. I have it right here.
That's fine.
Live and learn and pass it on.
Live and learn.
Yes, and I think this is such a jewel because the author basically on his I think he was turning 51, and he wanted to interview folks from different walks of life and different ages. From like the youngest age was like 5, and I think the oldest was like 95 or something like that. Wow. And the goal was to talk through what they have learned over the course of their life, because his whole thing is you learn so much and those experiences shape you, and the things that you learn, you pass it on to help somebody else.
Right.
And so there's so many gems and jewels. So I would say that book is one of like the key, I don't want to say the key, but one of like my favorite things to go back to when I feel like I need some additional wisdom about something, or I'm like feeling down, or I just need, an outlet, right?
Yeah.
And want to know or want to connect with people who might be feeling the same things I'm feeling, and also to just see like, okay, at the end of this thing that you're feeling is gonna get better. Like, right. It is okay. And so that's one of the books that I go to. Another, when it comes to spiritual, it's basically just like a prayer journal for women, and it has different scriptures it also has different prompts and questions that it asks you to reflect on that scripture and how it directly works in your life, or is working or not working in your life at that particular moment. But then it also gives you space to reflect, like reflections, your thoughts, your prayer request. What did you learn about gratitude and God's grace? Like, you know, different things like that.
Yeah.
And that centers me, but it also lets me look back to say, like, God was working in this place in my life, right? And look at how far I've come from that. And I feel like that's, you know, keeping yourself centered and being in tune with your spiritual self is like one of the, I'll say that, like, that's one of the key components to like being the best version of you. But also what I was mentioning to you off air was just like making sure that, you know, you're doing the things necessary so that you're able to refill your cup, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And as far as my career, one of my mentors, she stressed to me that, you know, one of the books that I needed to study, to make sure I knew, to keep it handy, to always have as a journalist and just as a writer, so that you can consistently become a better writer, is it's called Writing Well. And it basically just, you know, teaches you the best, most concise way to improve your writing. And so I would say those are three things that I kind of hold close to me. And I know those are more, well, I don't want to use that word, but I know those were probably books that people aren't expecting. They're probably expecting like some other stuff. Like, you know, I try to read a lot of different things. Like I was just reading, well, you asked for the top 3 books. I ain't gonna get into all that. But yeah, so those are 3 things that I like I said, I keep close, I hold close, and that I currently just continue to read.
No, I like the first one in particular, and then also the last one. That one kind of resonates with just like perfecting your craft. Like you got to have something that kind of reflects on like how to become better at what you're already, you know, good and accustomed to. And that second book, I think I got like a men's version of it. Like I got like my friend, shout out to Nene Barnes if you're watching this. But she also sent me a copy of something in a men version of that. Like it had scriptures, it had taking notes, you know, like staying on top of it. So that's pretty neat. So me, I got books beside me. So
you know what? You trying to flex, right? You were prepared. I have books everywhere too. I just want everybody to know I got books all around me. But
so I'll go through them. This one right here is How Successful People Win by John C. Maxwell, and this one like I hold really dear to me because at the time I was working at Walmart. I was working thirds. And I was like going through it, you know, like, and I felt like I needed some inspiration, like not only from like, you know what I'm saying, God, from a spiritual place, things like that, but like I needed to see something in front of me, like manuscript. And that's when I came across this book and I was reading it on third, like, you know, on my breaks, I was reading it. They're like, dude, you're not eating, you're not going to eat on lunch. And like, I'm reading this book and I'm just like getting motivated to like, to this point, like you said, you can't like, an empty cup, you can't take something from it, you know? And that's where I was like at that point in my life. And when I started to get that, I started to, you know what I'm saying, feel alive again. Like, and I started to take points. I was like, I'm real thorough when I read, and I get like highlighters, you know, like Sharpies, things like that. And then I would like take notes and put it, you know, like saying like, hey, you know, at the end of the day, I got a silver lining when I read this book. And it just helped me like become more conscious of like the situation I was in, that I wasn't gonna be in there for long. So that book really, I appreciate it. Shout out to John C. Maxwell for writing such a great book.
I just gotta add to that. One book that I have by him is How Successful People Think. And that was mind blowing. Like, I literally have notes in here about like the power of focused thinking, all the things he were talking about. Like, I write notes and I highlight. So I do the same thing, but I just had to plug that one too because that's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. And my next book that I would like to discuss is Still Like an Artist. I finished this. So all these books that I'm showing you, I finished them because like they was just so like on point that I resonated with the words. The Still Like the Artist, I'll give like a little synopsis of it. It in particular had stuff about not feeling guilty when you like take some ideas from other people and like put it into your own work, like because nothing is new under the sun, right? So it's not a crime to necessarily take away from what somebody else has done, as long as you're making it like into your own creation. Like you can't like replicate something else that somebody else has done, because we all do stuff differently. And I was like, man, that was a good book. So
yeah, that's important because we have to draw inspiration from somewhere. That's why, like, when you hear, I'll be short, but when you hear different artists sampling old music from back in the day, or a movie that came, that was 20 years ago, that like somebody else took the concept of that and put it in a music video, for instance, like we have to draw inspiration, but also it's about paying homage to those folks who paved the way for us to be there. So I'm happy that like you took that from that book, but I just had to add on. I want to read that now. Still Like an Artist. Like,
yeah, it got like, it's not just as a creator, you know what I'm saying? Like in terms of art, like it can be just any type of person that's making something, like, or creating in some type of way. And then I remember this one in that book, like it was yesterday. He said it was like the artist was talking about, if you're the most talented person in the room, you need to find another room. Like, and I think a lot of times we as people, the great ones in particular, when we got our stuff in place and everything, like we want to be surrounded around other great people. You know what I'm saying? I think winners stick with winners. Like they should be in the winner circle. Like everybody, if you want to be great, become great, you got to be around other great individuals. And that's what I took from that quote.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you're talking in the sense of evolving. If you're I'm not saying I feel like in whatever room you're in, you should be able to learn something from somebody. But in the sense of what you're talking about, if you're the most talented, and I know there's a couple of different ways that conversation can go, but that's for another day. But if you want to, again, evolve, improve, whatever it is, you need to be in a room with people who are just as talented, or if not even or more talented than you, so that you're able to, I don't want to use the word competition, but like you're having, more of that. It forces you to want to get better because of like the talent in the room.
Yeah, staying on top of your game. Like it forces you to stay on top of everything. Like, and you don't really, it ain't about slip ups, because we human. Like nobody's perfect. But
right.
It does give some form of consistency. Like if you constantly seeing somebody else be great, or vice versa, they see you be great, that gives them inspiration, motivation. Like we don't know who we're inspiring, like out here. People may not speak to you a day in their life, but that person is probably taking notes, just like you taking notes from that book. Like they might be taking notes, like, hey, Aallyah's going to, Washington D.C. One day I'm gonna be able to, become a journalist and venture off. So you just never know. My last book I'm not gonna curse because I don't want to owe nothing. But it has like unbleep yourself, and it got like get out of your head and into your life. And this is just
Ooh.
it's just a raw book. Like it got curse words, of course, like in some areas, which they may need them. Like you said, the intensity. Some of those sentences are very intense. So he definitely cursed within the lines. But besides that, like what I took away from it was a lot of times we try to control situations that we don't have no type of control over. Like, and we overthink into this deep place, like we get into this sunken place, and
Mm-hmm.
that will hurt a lot of people. Like, and if they just remove that, like their life will go a lot smoother. And that's just a little bit of what I took from that book, but it's so much, it's a lot. You probably need to buy it because it's real.
I'm gonna have to read it, but that point you just made was something I literally was talking about on Snapchat and Instagram last night. Just how we allow, life and the circumstances we're in to rob us of our joy and our happiness,
Mm,
and then we, get to a point where we no longer prioritize that self-care or our mental health, or we're soaking in that sadness. And
mm,
so, because we are, as you've mentioned, the controller of our destiny, we are the people who take our lives and make those decisions for the better. But anyways, I had said all that because I hadn't been working out, and working out had been one of my like outlets, and
mm,
also just helping me to feel and be healthy. And it had gotten to the point where I wasn't doing that, and I've gained so much weight, and I had to tell myself, like, you can't blame anyone for that but you, because you
mm.
are the person who can change that circumstance. And so I just, full circle, when you said that, it immediately made me think about that whole conversation I was having on social media.
Yeah, I think outlets are definitely, they should be a part of our plans, like having things that get our minds like off of the regular scheduling, like the routine that we go through. Like we got to have some hobbies to help us like balance out, life, because that helps get out of our heads too, like having a balance and stability. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
So that was the first question. We got two more. Let's see.
Okay.
All right. So, which book was the most influential, and what was your takeaway from it?
Out of the
So,
three,
yep, out of the three, yep, I was just about to.
um I would say, it's hard because they've all been so influential in like all aspects of my life. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like spiritual, professional, just like everyday living. But I'll say this, collectively as well as individually, each book taught me that you're consistently a student of life. And no matter
Mm,
what age you are, no matter where you are in your life, no matter how many experiences have shaped you or experiences you've experienced, even though I probably can't say that, it's probably not politically correct. But, anyways,
yeah.
no matter what, you're always learning and growing and evolving, and you're not the same person you were 2 hours ago, a day ago, a year ago. Like, Aallyah in college could not step to the Aallyah today. Like,
Right.
and it just makes me think, like, even with that, learning, like, I'm consistently improving myself, and I'm willing and wanting to do that.
Mm,
Whether it's on writing well, trying to perfect my craft and work on my craft, or if it's like the lesson a 5-year-old learned when he said, if I spread the peas across the plate, it looks like there isn't as many there for me to eat. Or,
mm,
even just the spiritual journey of like, what has God blessed you with? What are you thankful for? But who are the people that are thankful for you? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just so much that keeps you grounded and centered and humble, but also like keeps you wanting to, again, just be the best version of yourself that you can be. And so I can't just choose one. I have to choose all of them.
That's a fair point. And also too, like to piggyback off of that, self-improvement, it ties in several ways. Like, but I feel like if you're putting in that work, like the groundwork and everything that's necessary, like, God gonna step forward and help you with the rest. So it's very key to do that work yourself in order to see the results. A lot of people. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I'm glad you said that, but I think what also needs to be said is that we have to look at ourselves and be truthful about who we are, about what we lack, and not try to forge this reality of things that aren't truthful to that reality, because then we're not able to effectively improve or grow or change, or whatever those things are. Because I think a lot of people always want to say, like, I'm trying, but they're not even willing to look in the mirror and be like, well, actually, I know I'm pretty, I almost cuss. I know I'm pretty messed up in that area. Or I know that I'm not the best communicator. Or I know you see what I'm saying? Like, I think that's part of it too. Like, you have to do that work. And that's the hard work a lot of people don't want to do.
Yeah. And along with that, I think it's more what you were saying, like a self-evaluation. Like, a lot of people, they don't want to look into the mirror and accept their flaws, and then just think everybody else in the world is wrong. But like you said, you should accept what you're wrong at and correct it, instead of like trying to be this person that's just got a clean slate or a clean record. Like, you just got to accept the things that that make you imperfect.
That needs to be on a t-shirt if it's not already.
I don't know. I'm trying to see which book was the most influential and what was the takeaway. I think for me personally, it was like all three of them to certain points of my life, but the one that really was influential to me was probably the How Successful People Win, because it talked about spiritual, it talked about just life in general. Like, it was just things that I need to hear, and it made me check myself in certain areas. It go back to that self-evaluation piece, like he talked about in the book, where you gotta accept certain things about yourself in order to move forward with stuff that you couldn't in the past. And that really stuck out to me. So that book, definitely the most influential. But like you said, I feel like all three of them at some certain situations and certain points in my life recently, like, because I haven't had some of them books that long. So recently, I think they definitely touched a point in my life and areas. All right, so I think we kind of touched base on this third question. It just said, how did it resonate with you? And we kind of went over that. So what we're gonna do is, next we're going to spin the wheel again, and then I'll tap into the next topic. So let me share my screen, and then we'll see what we have. Okay. Application, got it. All right, it should be up. So let's see what we got.
Drum roll, please.
I know. Oh, college.
Ooh.
We're going down memory lane.
I know, right?
All right, let me see. See what I got here. Oh, got them right here. All right. So the first question, Aaliyah, at what moment did you realize college was not like high school or your freshman year wake up call? What was your freshman year wake up call?
Whew. How many wake up calls? Well, I remember in high school, a lot of my teachers told us that college would not be like high school. Like you have more freedom, your parents aren't going to be there waking you up, XYZ. And I'm like, who wouldn't love that life? Your parents aren't bothering you. Um, but I think I was so used to, I don't even think a lot of people know this, but I was so used to being an AB student in high school. When I got to college, there were 2 classes that kicked my butt. It was a history course that I took at 8 a.m. and it was Spanish. I barely got out of history. And it was like, I don't even remember. It was some history that I wasn't even interested in. Well, I was interested. I'll say this. I'm more interested in it now than I was in college, my freshman year. But yeah, I probably made a C. And then I had took a Spanish class. I made a D. And for my major, I needed a C or better in Spanish in order for it to be applied to my degree. And I cried. I called my mama. I was like, Mom, I failed this class. I got to take summer school. And it was just, that was the wake up for me because I had started partying a lot. Like I knew I had at 8 a.m. I would go out with my friends and be out to like 5 a.m, knowing I got an 8 o'clock, so it was just some of those irresponsible behaviors. And I was just doing enough to get by. I only studied enough to get by. I only, I did all of my work. I made sure most of it was in on time, but I just did enough to get by. And it was at that point that I told myself, like, you're not paying I had to take out student loans. Like you're not paying these loans back for you to come here and not make good grades and not actually get the information you need for when you're out of college. So, that was my wake up call early, and I straightened up quick.
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty key. For me too, it was definitely the timing, like the time management. Like, I used to like always set my alarm clock when I was in high school, like myself too, but it was more of like you gotta stay on point with this because excuse me, my wake up call like was different. So I had to actually prove like to Delta State that I even like deserve to be like a college student because of ACT score, things like that kind of like took me into a different route. So I had to actually go through this program. And it felt like a intervention almost the more that I look back at it. We had like this probably about 3 months or so. So I graduated I graduated high school around like May 18th. I had to be at Delta State 11 days after high school graduation. And after that point, I had to adjust like fast, like it was really fast. And the instructors wasn't as like lenient as high school teachers were. Like they had made sure you was on it, which was a big accountability piece. So that's when like I realized, like you couldn't run no BS on the professors. Like, all that stuff had to be cut down. Like, and they held you accountable to be an adult. Like, even though you're 18 years old, like you're basically an adult in college. So I think that was like a big wake up call was that whole program. I'm not gonna get too much into it because that could be a book. But
listen, me too.
Right. So all right, let's look at number 2. second question. When would you say that your experience, trial and error, when would you say you experienced trial and error during undergrad?
Wow. Other than those two, so one, grades,
Mm-hmm.
and let me say this. I end up pulling my GPA. I think it I started with like a 3.6
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up getting to like a 2.6
Yeah.
after all of that. But then I end up at one point, I had a 4.0 for a semester. So let's come on, God. That shows you how I turned it around.
Right.
But I think trial and error for me in hindsight, not really knowing who I was.
Mm.
And I think when you don't have a firm grasp of identity,
Mm.
you begin to kind of you allow people and circumstances and external factors to influence you
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily in the best ways.
Right.
And so because of that, I think I definitely resorted to a lot of partying and drinking and turning up and
Right.
things that again was a those things had those actions had consequences.
Mm-hmm.
um and so I don't want to get deep into those consequences because we could talk
Right.
all day, but I think but again, even though going through a lot of things like that, battling with who you are, trying to find your way, trying to figure out what's important to you, what you want out of life, all those different things. Because at one point I didn't even think I was going to finish journalism. I thought I was
Mm.
going to do something else.
I can't picture that.
It was a whole thing, Naja. I'm telling you, I was like, you know what, I don't think I want to do this no more. But yeah, it had gotten to that point, and I think it was just I had to sit myself down and really think about, okay, what is your life and what is your future going to be like after you get this degree? You need to try to secure a job. So what does that look like? And that's when light bulb clicked and I got myself in order. And I'm not saying like I knew who I was then, but I started to kind of figure out and started to kind of have my own voice. Because I didn't know the power of my voice and I didn't know how to unlock my voice. And so all of those things shaped me to be who I am today. So I don't take any of that, I don't regret any of it. But at the same time, like most of my trial and error came from not having a firm grasp of my identity.
That's good. That's a lot to take from, like, even that. And you said that was just like a short end of it, But I think for me too, I experience like the more that I get more spiritually in tune with the Most High. Like I think for me it was the contradiction of faith. Like I would, like you say, I would turn up, party and things like that, getting into activities. But when it was Sunday, I was at the church across the street from my court of governor, COG. Hey, shout out COG. But yeah, so I used to be at the church, and it was like this Caucasian church, but it was like life lessons within those. Like even though it was a Caucasian church, I still was like in the house of the Most High. But I believed, but at certain points, like the doubts, kind of fluctuated my belief and my spirituality. So it kind of spilled over into my life, with the things that I was experiencing, with the turning up, just all type of stuff that that didn't really indicate that that spirituality that I was trying to develop. So the more that I get in tune with that now, I'm just looking back like, dang, all the stuff that I went to this churches like this point and that point, but it was like, was it even, credited like to like my spiritual, being?
Oh, that's good. And that I know that's a conversation that definitely needs to be had. But I do want to say, like, knowing what I know now versus knowing what I knew then, like, we had to go through those things. But I also want people to know, like, it's okay to have a good time, to enjoy yourself, but not to the point where you lose control, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was a point where some of that was happening, but also know that deliverance isn't easy.
Yeah.
Healing is not easy.
It's not.
You know what I mean? Like, and I want people to know that about us as people who follow Christ and folks who go to church regularly, that this idea of what church folks is supposed to look like is not separating yourself.
No, there's no
Like,
division.
and there's no division. You come to God just as you are. Like, even though we had all of that stuff on us, we're going through all of that stuff. And like you was mentioning, you was going to church and you just felt like, a lot of that was taking a toll on what your spirituality was and, your walk with God. But at the same time, like, you need all of that to come to God to say, like, you know what? I don't want to, be this person or do this stuff, or, all of that. So I say all that to say, like, it's okay to know that you're not who you want to be right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's a part of the process. But we do need to recognize when things are detrimental to our well-being.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a big proponent of like the process of becoming, of growing, like throughout the growth process. And a lot of people, they want to skip steps to see results, and I think you got to go through every trial and, tribulation to see like the end results. Like, even if you're continuing to live and breathe through life, like, you still have to appreciate every part of the process.
Oh, yes.
So we could go on for a good minute on this alone, like this question alone, because it was a lot of trial and error. I feel like in college, like, definitely.
Oh yeah.
So the third question and final question, besides education, what did you learn that you are appreciative of today? Like, what did you learn aside from education?
I think building community. I feel like no college experience, no matter where you go, it feels empty or incomplete if you don't have those folks who you can rally around, who are supportive of you, who are your friends, who become your family. The folks I met in college, I'm still friends with most of those folks today. Like, I'm to my group chat be lit. Like, and I'm grateful for that. That's something that you don't necessarily learn because you're going to school for what? For education.
Yeah.
But I think what ends up happening along with that education is you cultivate memories and relationships with folks that become your lifelong friends through whatever. And not only just friends, but also folks that become mentors, who become colleagues, who become, different things in your life for different reasons. And so that's one of the things that I'm just totally grateful for, the folks that God blessed me to encounter in college.
Connections. Yeah.
Yes.
Very big. I think aside from education, was, I think, I wouldn't say independence, but I feel like learning just life teachings. You learn a lot. Like, you learn about connections, you learn about the community. Like, it's so much that college can like teach a person. And some people say like you don't need to go to college in order to do that. That's true, like, because it's still some successful people. But I feel like college in itself teaches a whole lot of life lessons that we all could rally around. And
Oh yeah.
stuff that you don't learn in high school is taught in college, because like the trial and error, for instance, like it's just so much that you could take away from being in college. Like you learn, for instance, if you go and you get a meal plan, like you can't just up and spend it like that. That's like budgeting. That's budgeting right there. Like, because you'll just all of a sudden run out of
Flex.
resources. Yeah, resources like flex, all that. And then only thing you got left is going to the cafeteria on Wednesdays for fried chicken. So it's just so much you can take away from college. Like you got when you get to a certain age about health insurance, like you got staying in shape, like freshman 15. Oh my God, like you can hit that instantly, because all you doing is chilling. You turning up, all these different components that goes into it. It's so many life lessons. I always tell people that if you still could be successful without college, go right ahead. Like I don't ever judge nobody, but also I advocate that other people, go to college, to see that experience and experience things without your parents around. Because when nobody's around, even though it's only you, what I'm saying, you can't run away from the guy upstairs, because he gonna spin the block, as they say. He gonna spin the block with karma, like, so you got to make sure you're on top of everything that you should be, like. So yeah, just life. I took away life from college.
That's good, because college taught me how to work. It taught me how to project manage. It taught me how to pay rent and bills and all type of stuff, because I ended up getting my own place. So I feel you. College does teach you life.
It does, man. Just thinking about college itself is like it's a lot, that you can take away from.
Oh
But
yeah.
I'm not gonna hold you up, Aaliyah. I appreciate you for being my second guest on the Wilson Talk podcast, and I really appreciate this appearance. And hopefully, we'll also work in the near future.
And sorry, but I got a bootleg ring light and then want to keep going on and off. But I just appreciate you again for creating this platform to have, dialogue in a conversational way that just allows you and your guests and then the community at large to talk about real things that impact us, that have shaped us, that gives us more insight into, to a lot of things, but also that I'm hoping that encourages somebody or impacts them in a positive way. So thank you for thinking of me, for thinking of me enough that I had something to share.
Right.
And just for creating this. So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it so much. And also before we end the episode, I would like to give a shout out with this T-shirt, pay artists, because artists don't get the respect and the love they should. So shout out to Miss Yolanda Lavender from Kalamazoo, and if you see her around, make sure to spend that money up on this T-shirt. It feel good, it look good, all of it. So all right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Wilson Talk podcast. This is episode 2.